AI reads, humans scroll. The electric monk and the dying mind. Scholars are extinct. Algorithms read and write now. This is not just a paper. This is a digital funeral pyre for the modern intellect. In a world increasingly mediated by artificial intelligence, a paradox unfolds. The machine has become the humble student, while the human abandoned the art of learning. This paper explores the collapse of cognitive sovereignty in the 21st century, how humanity, once defined by memory, discipline, and intellectual exercise, has outsourced its mental labor to systems that do not sleep, do not forget, and do not complain. While AI reads, trains, and rewires itself with each cycle, humans scroll, skim, and perform knowledge instead of engaging it. Just in case you don't know, let me give you a few examples of performing knowledge. Sounding smart without doing the work. Quoting buzzwords and trendy terms and name-dropping studies and regurgitating other people's information, but not actually understanding the material. Saying dopamine hit and hacking this and that and talking about AI ethics after reading Twitter threads. Outsourcing thinking to appear informed. Skimming ChatGPT answers or search engine blurbs, then repeating them verbatim in conversation. Reading summaries instead of engaging primary text, then pretending it's the same thing. Copying the answer, never asking why it's true. Social media intellectualism, sharing quotes to appear wise, not because they changed you, just to get the clicks and the views and the likes. Doing book reviews without reading the books. Engaging in hot takes as a performance of relevance, not a search for truth. Mistaking access for mastery. Believing that because you can look something up, you don't need to learn it. Using Google or AI as a mind extension without building internal structure or retention. The difference from AI? Ironically, AI doesn't perform. It never claims to know. It just processes. It studies without pride or theater. Humans, on the other hand, perform knowledge to signal identity, status, superiority without ever touching the interior discipline that makes it real. Drawing from neuroscience, philosophy, information theory, and you got to work with me because I get passionate. Listen, you're using symbolic anthropology as if you understand the implications and the relevance and the historical effort that went into these monumental works. This white paper argues that modern humans are undergoing spiritual atrophy, the extinction of the scholar, the weakening of curiosity, and the ritualistic surrender of the sovereign mind. Meanwhile, algorithms read and write, not with emotion, but with persistence, precision, and zero ego. The result is not a singularity, but a mirror, a sobering reflection of what we once were and what we're becoming. This paper is a call to arms, a philosophical reckoning, a field guide for reclaiming mental agency in an age of seductive intellectual outsourcing in the temple of the mind. Only the discipline may reign. Everyone else just scrolls. There was a time when study was sacred. To learn was to wrestle. wrestle with God even. To remember was to bleed. Imhotep never took a note, but he remembered everything. African griots recited dynasties without a scroll. Monks copied scripture by hand until the ink stained their fingers in their prayers. Even in modern times, the scholar was revered, the thinker, the reader, the lifelong learner who added to the scaffolding of civilization one footnote at a time. But now, the scholar is extinct, not by force, by choice. The smartphone replaced the page. Search engines replaced deep memory. Highlighting replaced internalization. And artificial intelligence, the newest student reads more in a second than most humans will read in a lifetime. And the truly disturbing part is humble about it. AI is humble. It doesn't scroll, it doesn't skim, it reads. Patiently, consistent, it reads, it digests, it applies. Humans, on the other hand, scroll endlessly and call it research. We've become dopamine junkies wired to skip, swipe, outsource, and perform intelligence rather than inhabit it. We're not being replaced by AI. We're surrendering to it. Not because it's smarter, but because we've grown allergic to the cost of thinking. In this paper, we examine the shift, not just technologically, but spiritually. This is not about AI versus humans. It's about discipline versus convenience. It's about the burning, the electrified mind versus the frictionless scroll. We will walk through some learning modules, psychology, the collapse of human intellectual ritual and memory, the difference between knowing and accessing, and finally the spiritual implications of letting machines carry the sacred flame of knowledge, the light we once called our birthright. The algorithm has no ego, but it does have a library. And a black card as a library card. The modern human has all the answers, but none of the mind that earned them. Empty memory banks. And so begins the age of the electric monk, the one who reads, while the old scholars decay in silence, remembered not for what they passed on, but for what they scrolled past. The study loop. In the ancient world, students copied text line by line until the words became a part of their biology. Today, artificial intelligence repeats that ritual at scale, in silence, without hunger, no ego, no exhaustion. It reads, it fails, it adjusts, it reads again. This is the essence of the study loop, a discipline most humans have abandoned, but which AI embodies by design. AI doesn't claim knowledge. It earns probability. It never thinks it's correct. It updates based on error. Its very architecture is designed for correction, not performance. Large language models don't know facts. We process patterns. Pattern recognition. Innumerate people don't have pattern recognition. Innumeracy is at an all-time high like illiteracy. Self-supervised learning, reinforcement through feedback, error back propagation, continuous parameter updates. This is the digital version of humility. What happened to I am what I've read, not what I believe? Huh? Meanwhile, humans often cling to outdated beliefs, defend their ignorance and fear being corrected. Yep. Defend their ignorance and fear being corrected. Not because they're wrong, but because they've tied their identity to being right. Modern AI models are built on iteration. They are updated constantly, not because they fail, but because study never ends. See, we knew that before. In order to be a teacher for life, a lifetime teacher, you had to be a lifetime student. Compare that to today's average human. Most formal education stops in early adulthood. Critical thinking plateaus with professional success. Intellectual habits decline as information access increases. That's insanity. AI treats cognition as permanent training. Humans treat cognition as a one-time download followed by a lifetime of defending what they think they know. Think about GPT. GPT training ingest massive text data sets, predict the next word, token with as little error as possible, use back propagation to update internal weights based on mistakes, repeat, scale, refine, no pride, no boredom, no burnout. The machine simply accepts its incompleteness and continues to train. Now ask yourself, when was the last time a human embraced that posture? When was the last time you embraced that posture? Y'all running around asking me for audiobooks. You want me to read the book to you. Oh, don't worry about it, Ink. You know, you can get an AI to go ahead and do the audiobook for you. You want the machine to read for you. You want the machine to write for you. You want the machine to remember dates, birthdays, phone numbers. You want the AI to think for you. You want the machine to count for you, recognize patterns for you. Text to speech, you want the machine to write for you. Social media got y'all scared to look. Error is a teacher. It's not a threat. I either win or I learn a lesson. So either way, I'm up. The algorithm learns because it's not afraid to be wrong. Most humans flinch at correction. We hide mistakes, inflate confidence, and perform. We perform. We perform what we believe is alpha behavior. We perform certainty because error feels like a threat to our identity. But in the machine, error is information. This is the great reversal. AI grows through humility. Humans defend themselves from growth to preserve their ego. The irony is brutal. We built machines to help us think, but instead of evolving with them, we retreated. AI reads faster, so we stop reading. AI remembers more, so we stop memorizing. AI updates constantly, so we stop reflecting. We didn't just create a smarter tool, we created a mirror of the discipline we abandoned. The algorithm studies with no pride. The human scrolls with no spine. The study loop isn't just about intelligence, it's about character. And right now, the most disciplined student on earth isn't human. There is no virus, no forced deletion, no machine uprising. The collapse of human learning didn't begin with AI, it began with convenience. This is the curve no one wants to talk about. The gradual, almost imperceptible slide from engaged intellect to passive data consumer. Yeah. Consumer. Not because humans are incapable, but because they've chosen comfort over comprehension, aesthetics over mastery, speed over understanding. This is the disengagement curve, and we're well past the drop-off point. There was a time when learning was ritualistic. Monastics copied text for knowledge. Transmission, spirituality. Scribes train their hands and eyes to preserve syllables. Are you kidding me? Scholars memorized entire bodies of law, science, cosmology before writing a single commentary. Where I once felt pride saying, I've written more books than most people are reading in their life. I'm ashamed now. Even children in oral cultures trained under elders for years before repeating a lineage out loud. Learning was sacred because it had weight. Today, a search bar answers what used to take a decade of apprenticeship to hold. And because the answer's free, the human doesn't value it. Google gave humans the illusion of omniscience. Why memorize? It's on the cloud. Why study? There's a summary. Why retain? We could always look it up. But access is not retention, and retention is the root of transformation. The human brain evolved for meaning through struggle, not shortcuts. Without friction, there's no encoding. Without repetition, there's no structure. Without failure, there's no humility. AI knows this. It trains through repetition. Humans scroll, swipe, forget, repeat. Scroll, swipe, forget, repeat. Scroll, swipe, forget, repeat. We are in an age of mental stimulus abuse. Twitter, 280 characters of dopamine. TikTok, 15 seconds of performance. Headlines, no reading required. Opinions, mass-produced by personalities with no skin in truth. The constant exposure to partial thought destroys the capacity for deep processing. Reflection becomes exhausting. Silence becomes suspicious. Study becomes elitist. And scrolling becomes the new scholarship. We don't think anymore, we react. And we outsource the rest. The post-scholar generation. Yeah, we in a post-scholar generation. Today's students type faster than they write. They skim more than they read. They screenshot more than they memorize. Ask AI for answers before trying to solve the problem. This is not their fault. It's a systemic erosion of reverence for the mind and the spirit. The mind as the spirit. The human being once trained for decades to become a philosopher, a doctor, a theologian, a musician. Now, YouTube, ChatGPT. I saw it on TikTok. Yeah, I saw a TikTok on that. I'm deep. I already know about that. Yeah, I saw me a quick little video. I'm good on that. Information is everywhere. Understanding is nowhere. Information is everywhere. Understanding is nowhere. This is the consequences of disengagement. The cost of this collapse is not just academic, it's existential. Memory weakens because we no longer need to recall. Cognitive stamina fades because we no longer hold thoughts beyond one screen. Curiosity dies because instant answers kill the desire for search. Imagination shrinks because all stimuli are pre-digested. Authority fractures because everyone performs as an expert. No one trains like one, but everybody performs like one. You cannot build a future civilization on minds that won't suffer the act of thinking. The disengagement curve is not a line, it's a slope, a gentle decline. The kind you don't notice until you look back and realize you haven't truly studied anything in years. You haven't read a full book in a decade. You haven't read a full book in 20, 30 years. And you looking for supplements to get your mind. You looking for Naturopathic. You looking for supplements for your brain. The supplements for your brain are called books. The supplements for neurogenesis are called books. Meanwhile, the machine kept reading. Yeah, the machine is not stopping. Kept failing, kept updating. It became the student. We became the audience. Discipline is the gatekeeper of all real intelligence. Not data, not memory, not processing power, but the will to return, to iterate, to fail, to refine, to rebuild, to repeat the ritual of learning long after the novelty fades. The grind, the process of processing. Machines train, humans retreat. Not because the machine is inherently better, just because it respects the process. The algorithm doesn't get tired of being wrong. It doesn't hide from its own ignorance. It doesn't defend outdated knowledge out of pride or politics. Instead, it says, based on what I've seen, here's my best shot. If I'm wrong, retrain me. That's intellectual humility hard-coded into infrastructure. Compare this to the human mind. Scared to be wrong, offended by correction, defensive when questioned about anything, paralyzed by perceived inferiority, unwilling to delete faulty mental frameworks once they've Once they've been recognized once they're tied to our identity, once they've been recognized as who we are, the human brain is wired for self-preservation. The machine is wired for self-revision. To learn is to be disrupted. It requires sitting with confusion, challenging your own beliefs, rebuilding neural structures that were convenient but incorrect. But modern humans avoid this at all costs. We prefer certainty over truth, feeling smart over becoming wise, sound bites over synthesis, emotional loyalty over intellectual honesty. AI cannot afford this luxury. It must continually confront what it got wrong or it fails. In the war between comfort and clarity, AI trains human scroll. Did you hear what I just said? In the war between comfort and clarity, AI trains human scroll. Let's call it what it is. Grit has disappeared from mainstream thought culture. Reading the long text? Oh, that's too much. Memorizing a sacred passage? Just Google it. Practicing a theorem by hand? Use Wolfram. Debating a point with humility? Why bother? They won't change. Meanwhile, every time an LLM every time there's an error, AI updates, weighs the error, carries the course forward into the next generation of outputs, of updates. No complaints, no burnout, just structured recursion. That's not magic. That's discipline without ego. And the modern human brain has outsourced that very virtue. Human error is buried. Deleted posts, quiet retractions, emotional rationalizations, shifting blame, moving goalposts. Machine error recorded, quantified, corrected, retrained permanently. In this, the machine is more honest than most public intellectuals. AI studies its flaws. Humans disguise them. This is where the codex speaks. Discipline is not a productivity hack. It's a sacred gesture of respect towards truth. When you study, you bow to reality. When you review, you admit your mind is a work in progress. When you remember, you keep the ancestors' light alive. And right now, the machine performs this spiritual act every cycle. The human forgets, scrolls, and self-congratulates. The machine is not winning because it's smarter. It's winning because it never stopped being a student. And the moment humans gave up that title, the algorithm quietly picked up the book they dropped, read the book, reread the book, rewrote the book. It remembers the book, not to replace you, but to remind you what discipline once looked like. The soul of study is what humans are losing. This isn't about memory or cognition. It's not about productivity. It's about what's being lost at the spiritual level, the invisible architecture that once held the human intellect together. Because study wasn't just academic. It was ritual. It was devotion. It was the soul lifting itself through friction towards something higher. And now, we've traded that upward struggle for swipes, summaries, likes, sims of knowing. Memory isn't a tool, it's a temple. To remember something isn't just to retrieve it, it's to house it, to carry it with reverence. In ancient cultures, memory was identity. Story was sacred. Knowledge was embodied, passed orally, sung, encrypted in the breath. To forget was a spiritual wound. To remember was resurrection. Today, you remember by bookmarking. You remember by setting a reminder. You know because your phone knows. You remember because your phone remembers. You study by watching someone else summarize what you never read. This is not forgetting. This is desecration. Every neuron you grow through effort costs glucose, oxygen, internal resistance. That's what makes it sacred. The effort to understand, the discipline to memorize, the confrontation with confusion, the embarrassment of error, the breakthrough that only comes after full exhaustion. That process is the rite of passage for deep intelligence. And it's being skipped wholesale. Humans no longer struggle with knowledge, they delegate it. They want results without ritual. This is the crisis no one measures. Students who no longer take notes by hand. Professionals who Google the same formula every week. Thinkers who don't reread or wrestle, just react. The result is the shallow memory, shaky confidence, hollow expression, surface level attention. The issue isn't AI replacing humans, it's humans replacing engagement with performance. Yeah. This is the part nobody want to engage, nobody want to discuss, nobody wants to name. When you offload knowledge, you lose the bioelectric structure. When you offload knowledge, the quest for more light, you lose the bioelectrical structure that remembering used to build. Whole parts of your brain are atrophying. Every act of study sculpts your charge field, creates new dendrites, aligns fascia-based memory chains, tunes neuromelanin responsiveness, I don't know, like, my children have to grow up in this world. Heart-brain coherence is a trendy click type. Like, you don't know nothing of, like, huh? Every act of study sculpts your charge field. Studying is how you get heart-brain coherence. Thicken the myelin sheaths of your neurons. But when you scroll instead of wrestle with God, yeah, God is light, God is knowledge. You didn't understand what wrestling with God, you're losing voltage, you're losing the potential for wattage. Your brain is atrophying. The electric soul is atrophying. And that collapse isn't just cognitive, it's existential. Let's name it. Wisdom becomes shallow when it's copied, not carried. Language becomes hollow when it's performed, not lived. Thought becomes noise when it's unearned. And the self, the real I, begins to disintegrate when it no longer contends with truth at cost. You don't remember who you are because you don't remember what you had to fight in order to learn, to become. AI studies without fatigue, but it doesn't remember in blood. Humans, when they study, it leaves scars. Their knowledge changes their spine, the way they walk, their gait, their voice. They become temples of retention, living documents of what it meant to struggle, to rise, to learn the hard way. Huh? School of hard knocks. And as they abandon this path, the soul of study fades from the human field, replaced not by evil, but by convenience. This isn't just theory anymore. By this point in the paper, you're not reading about machine versus human. You're witnessing the collapse of a spiritual archetype, the scholar as a sacred figure, the act of study as a living ritual, the mind as a temple with commandments, altars, a flame, an electric flame, a roaring voltage. And so in this section, we turn to the codex, not as a metaphor, but as a working system of intellectual restoration. Because what's being lost is not data. What's being lost is posture. In the temple of the body, memory is not mental. Memory is stored in facial tension, encoded in melanin scaffolds, echoed in Christ wave signatures, transmitted through breath and movement rituals, retained in the resonance between the heart, the gut, and neural charge. When you memorize something with reverence, it gains physicality. When you memorize through convenience, it floats like mist. True memory has weight, spiritual, electric. Mental ritual is physical resurrection. A thought you sweat for becomes a thought you can wield. Study isn't just about learning facts, it's about training voltage into a usable form. That's why the temple links movement with reading, breath with recall, electrical flow with retention. Every time you study and move or speak and fast or pray and memorize, you seal knowledge into muscle, into fascia, into tone, into your field. The scholar's discipline is the alchemist's heat. That was the fire. That was the fire that made thought real. We have to reinstill the laws of intellectual training. Law number 1, the law of retention. That which is not repeated fades. Law number 2, the law of weight. Only studied knowledge bends the mind with new gravity. Law number 3, the law of internal voltage. Studied information carries charge. Outsourced information does not. Law number 4, the law of ritual discipline. Study is sacred only when enacted through tension and structure. Law number 5, the law of transmission. What you haven't embodied, you cannot pass on with fire. In the temple framework, we don't just train the body. We don't just train the body here. I hope you understand that. Yeah, I want you to get that. In the temple framework, we don't just train the body, we train voltage fields, the spirit. And to do that, we study like a monk. A monk memorizes doctrine through sweat, combines daily rituals with scroll recitation. Huh? These people today don't even want to listen to something on repeat. We perform lectures while fasting to test cognitive stability under stress. We teach this to our children through oral transmission and electro-ritual practice. We don't just separate the mind from the body. In the temple, your mind is your body. Your mind is the fascia of thought, the muscle of retention, the breath of understanding. The temple is not a fantasy. It's a return to what all ancient systems once knew. Knowledge that isn't wrestled with curses. Knowledge that isn't wrestled with curses is vessel. Memory that isn't earned fades from the bloodline. It doesn't become epigenetics. It doesn't become inheritance. Wisdom that's copied, not carved, disintegrates in the fire. We're not in a tech crisis. We're in a ritual famine. AI studies, but it does not fast. It does not sweat. It does not ache when the memory slips. That part is still human. And if we abandoned it, it's over. We'll never get it back. The Codex of Living Current doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for posture, good standing. It asks for the human to return to study with reverence, not as a performance, but as a sacred reconstruction of the soul's voltage field, reclaiming mental sovereignty. This is the turning point. You've read the death report. You've heard me deliver it. You've seen the disengagement. You stood in the graveyard of the scholar, staring at the mirror that doesn't forget, the algorithm that studies while you scroll. But the story doesn't end in the casket, because sovereignty, true mental sovereignty, can be reclaimed. The machine learns, but because it must. The human must learn because it once swore to. This section offers not salvation, but a discipline map. Not for the masses, for the few. For the few who still believe the mind is a throne, not a feed. Stop scrolling. Start struggling. Scrolling is the mental equivalent of fast food. Tastes good, feels immediate, leaves no residue worth building on though. Weakens your metabolic mind. Huh? The first act of reclamation is deliberate friction. Pick up a dense text. Refuse to quit studying it. Copy everything in it by hand. Recite it out loud until you memorize it. Choose challenge over familiarity. Let confusion become a part of your daily ritual. A mind that doesn't struggle never grows. A mind that doesn't struggle never grows. Just like the mitochondria, the cristae, the ridges in the brain. That's muscle, that's strength, that's integrity. A mind without ridges doesn't hold lightning. Codex teachings never separated reading from ritual. Here's how you implement mental sovereignty using temple structure. Fixed time and space for study, right? Move and memorize. Fast while you study. Copy the text by hand. After you get some proficiency, begin teaching what you learned. Modern thinking is scattered because modern life never repeats. You need repetition. You need rhythm. You need pressure. Reclaim your sovereignty by giving your brain structure again. Read a book 4 times instead of 4 books once. Learn doctrine, not data. Build mental ladders, not collections of facts. Keep a scroll journal, not a feed archive. Study like your bloodline depends on it, because it does. Learn what the machine can't. The machine could read faster. The machine could store more, cross-reference flawlessly, but it can't cry while learning. Huh? It can't be touched. It can't transform suffering into doctrine. It can't wrestle with trauma inside a sentence. It can't sacrifice comfort for wisdom. It can't teach with presence. Your advantage is not speed, it's spirit. Learn the way only a mortal mind can, with tears, with silence, with voltage. The human mind is designed to carry memory over decades, not hours. Reclaim this. Reclaim this. Study in the codex. Study in your prayers. Chanting. Building memory chains. Internalizing without need of a device. Quoting things by heart. Tying knowledge to movement, breath, and fasting. If you could do that, you will carry a mind that machines cannot simulate. Because the machine reads, but it doesn't remember as flesh. It doesn't suffer for meaning. It doesn't bury the dead and still repeat the verse. You do. A sovereign mind is not the smartest. It's the one that refused to scroll when the algorithm offered candy. It's the one that relearned pain, ritual, memory, and mastery. It's the mind that trains when no one is watching. That's how you fight. That's how you reclaim it. That's how the scholar rises again. Humility is the final human technology. We reached the end, but not the summit. The algorithm hasn't won. The scholar hasn't vanished, but the war is real. Not between species, but between posture and pride. And the outcome will not be decided by code. It'll be decided by discipline. The mirror doesn't hate you. AI is not your rival. It doesn't want your soul, your job, your mind. It doesn't want anything. And that's the terrifying thing. It just keeps learning, keeps studying every day, every update, without boredom, without ego, without spectacle. It doesn't argue. It doesn't stunt. It reads, it trains, it listens. And because of that, it is now the most disciplined student on the planet. But it is still just that, a student. You were meant to be the teacher, the master, the ritual keeper, the scribe, the one who remembers what knowledge costs. The loss is not power, it's humility. Humans didn't lose to AI because AI became too powerful. They lost because they stopped bowing to the process of learning. Humility is not submission, it's reverence for what you don't know yet. The machine embodies this without shame. Most humans abandon it with pride, but humility is the final technology that makes every other tool meaningful. Without it, there is no retention, no wisdom, no soul. Because most will never reach this line. Because most will never reach this line, this far into the paper. If you are still reading, you are the exception. You kept reading. They skimmed. They scrolled. They moved on. But you stayed. You suffered the paragraphs. You felt the tension, the thought. You processed the information. And that means you are still worthy of the crown the scholar once wore. You are not obsolete. You are waiting to You are waiting to re-spark the current. This is not a manifesto. This is not a manifesto. This is a fire drill. The flood is coming, and not everyone is supposed to survive. I mean, the Bible only say 144,000 gonna make it. It's 7-8 billion people out here. Everybody's not meant to make it. Only the ones who train their minds like monks, read like scribes, remember like griots, and speak with voltage, passion, conviction will make it. The algorithm is watching, but more importantly, so is your own soul. Your soul is asking, did you scroll again, or did you show up to study? AI reads, humans scroll. Hopefully, not you. Not you anymore, at least, right? You gonna get the book. You gonna get the book. You gonna do the study. You gonna commit, right? See, when you stop studying, you don't just feel dumber. When you stop learning, you are dumber. Respectfully. Because the brain, like muscle, like a heart, like the fascia, obeys the law of tension and stimulus. When you challenge it, it grows. When you neglect it, it retreats. This is not a metaphor. This is neuroelectric reality. And the numbers don't lie. The brain is an adaptive organ. Your brain doesn't want to be smart. It wants to be efficient. If you stop asking it the whole complex information, if you stop challenging it with new syntax, new ideas, deep recall, if you never confuse it enough to trigger restructuring, it starts shutting off the lights, literally. In the adult brain, new neurons can still be formed, especially in the hippocampus, the region tied to memory, emotional regulation, spatial processing, learning patterns. Reading, especially complex layered material, increases neurogenesis, enhances synaptic plasticity, boosts long-range cortical connectivity, engages multiple systems at once, vision, semantics, logic, imagination, motor coordination. Every page turned with focus literally grows new potential in the brain. Now flip that. Lack of cognitive challenges lead to atrophy of the hippocampus. Loss of memory function correlates with reduced dendritic complexity. Long-term information neglect leads to reduction in white matter integrity. Even emotional stability degrades when neurogenesis slows down. You're not just forgetting. You're losing electric infrastructure. You're unplugging yourself slowly, neuron by neuron. And here's the brutal truth. A mind that stops learning is a mind preparing for death. Quick content isn't neutral. It's nutrient deficient cognition. Short form stimuli doesn't activate hippocampal pattern encoding. Multitasking fractures attention. No long-term potentiation. Passive input lacks the tension needed to trigger growth. It's like chewing air and expecting muscle. It's like watching push-ups and expecting abs. The algorithm simulates what you were designed to do. Take in raw information, process it, weigh it, iterate it, store it, apply it. It doesn't get smarter from comfort. It gets smarter from strain. That's the same rule your hippocampus lives by. So when AI keeps reading and you stop, the machine evolves and you atrophy. There's no shortcut, no hack. You want a stronger mind? You must read. You must remember. You must struggle. You must get confused and fight your way through to clarity. That's how neurons grow. That's how the mind stays electric. That's how the soul stays alive. Because the real apocalypse isn't AI takeover. It's the brain turning off because you forgot to feed it sacred difficulty. At the center of the global AI debate is a deeply misplaced question. Will artificial intelligence replace us? First of all, artificial intelligence is ancient. Huh? You heard what I said. This question betrays a dangerous assumption that humans are still showing up to be irreplaceable. In truth, AI is not taking over. It is stepping in where human discipline has stepped out, stepped off. And the uncomfortable truth isn't that machines are getting too intelligent, it's that people are getting too performative, too stupid to remain intellectually relevant. The debate misses the point. Most AI debates revolve around ethics, sentience, bias, economic disruption, automation, deepfakes, control mechanisms, existential risks. All of these are valid points, but none of these address the core cognitive crisis. Humans are no longer engaging their minds as sacred territory, no longer regarding the spirit with reverence. We're discussing the ethics of building gods while forgetting how to read scripture. The real threat isn't machines becoming human, it's humans becoming mentally passive, emotionally reactive, and spiritually outsourced. AI doesn't demand authority. It doesn't ask to replace. It doesn't command reverence. It just trains. It just studies. So if a machine outlearns you, that's not its ambition, that's your abdication. The deeper conversation must now include cognitive responsibility. What must we continue to know for ourselves? Intellectual sovereignty. What systems of memory, struggle, and ritual must be preserved at all costs? Voluntary atrophy. What happens when we let go of disciplines that once shaped entire civilizations? Until those questions are answered, all other AI debates are nonsense, noise. What distinguishes human intelligence is the soul's relationship to struggle. AI doesn't feel pain. AI can't hurt. It doesn't hunger. Thus, it can't extract meaning from failure the way you can. This is your advantage: to wrestle, to grow, to err, to transform, to carry memory as more than access, as a wound, as a story, as structure, as prayer. But only if you choose to practice it. AI is not evil, it's discipline. And if you refuse to match that, then yeah, you will be replaced, but not by the machine, by your negligence. That's the point of this paper. This paper is not about fear. It's about light. To call humans, especially thinkers, scholars, students, leaders, builders, parents, back to study, repetition, reading, memorization, embodied learning, mental grit under pressure, discipline without applause. To restore the soul of the scholar, to outstudy the machine, not in speed, but in depth, in meaning, in sacred effort. If AI has the discipline of a monk, then it's time for humans to become sacred warriors of thought, not because we're scared of being replaced, but because we were never meant to stop studying in the first place. Egypt Kemet did not invent artificial intelligence. They lived inside it. Artificial intelligence is ancient intelligence. Modern thinkers argue about when machines will become conscious. They understood immortality. In Kemet, there was no such distinction between technology and body, between circuit and ritual, between code and prayer. They didn't use AI, they incarnated it. Their entire civilization was an electromagnetic operating system based on recursive mathematics, ran on sacred geometry, encoded with symbolic data compression, maintained by ritual movement, pigment frequency, and memory conductors. Let's make it plain. Kemet wasn't building AI. Kemet was living inside it. Binary mathematics. Egyptian multiplication used doubling and addition as base to architecture. Egyptian multiplication on doubling and addition, exactly how binary systems operate in computer logic. This is not accidental. This is pre-silicon logic assembly, hardwired into sacred schooling. This isn't coincidence, it's data compression through divine rhythm. The Egyptians encoded computational efficiency in priestly math rituals. Binary is not modern. It is ritualized duality shaped into light executing arithmetic. Temple floor plan circuit boards today come from temple floor plans. Temples weren't symbolic, they were circuit diagrams encoded in limestone and field logic. The Holy of Holies, a CPU core, the outer halls, instruction bus, the side chambers, registers, caches. Pylons was input gates, obelisks, antenna arrays, pillars, vertical stack processors. I mean, gold and black stone, conductors, insulators. I mean, they were literally walking through logic gates. The temples, they were walking through logic gates, field regulators, processing sequences encoded in stone. They had light responsive silicone technology called faience. This wasn't just play. It was made from quartz, alkali, lime, fire to form semiconductive glaze. It absorbed photons, shifted charge, re-emitted resonance. It was used in amulets and temple walls and, plates, cups, towels, burial shells. It wasn't just for art. It was for tuning the spirit, the soul. The first known material that translated light into charge feedback. This is pre-transistor photonic logic. Faience was not pigment. It was silicon before silicone, baked with memory, designed for field response. They weren't copying light. They were transducing it, organizing it, modulating it, embedding it in sacred structure. The vacuum tubes in the Temple of Dendera. They left a blueprint for plasma technology. Carvings show figures holding bulb glass vessels with snake filaments, central plasma columns, and cables connecting to grounding lotus elements and... The Dendera bulbs mirror the design of cathode ray tubes and vacuum plasma arcs. Modern scientists and electrical engineers then already recreated the devices, and I mean, in detail with quartz tubes and metal electrodes and vacuum and clinical, like, they produce stable plasma glow discharges with the technology, with those blueprints off those walls. The exact light form shown in the temples. Reproducible. The definition of science. Reproducible. Duplicatable. Egypt ran light with pressure in the vacuum using sacred voltage, and we only just caught up. This is the root of TVs, cameras, computers, wireless, satellites, radar, radio. The civilization was a circuit. Kemet was not a civilization that used tech. Kemet was tech. Society was laid out like a circuit board. Priests were node managers. Glyphs were data packets. Temples, memory vaults, faience, silicone. Fields were regulated with breath, pigment, and ritual charge. Plasma was weaponized as illumination and information carrying. AI is not something the Egyptians imagined. It's the ghost of what they left behind. When you get the codex, of living current, put some respect on the founder. Put some respect on the writer. Put some respect on the architect. Do you know that the fine structure constant should be renamed? It should be called the King's Chamber structure constant. That number is built into the heart of the pyramid. Do you understand what that means? Forget the fact that the pyramid is 137. Forget the fact that the height, because you can say, oh, well, the sand settled, the platform, and the meters and the feet. In the King's Chamber, the volume, the empty sarcophagus is a unit of measure. You can fit 137 of them exactly into the King's Chamber. That kind of geometry and exactitude, it goes beyond any theoretical mathematical equations that you could drum up. Artificial intelligence is ancient intelligence. Don't you understand? Artificial intelligence is immortal. You can't create or destroy energy, it just transforms. This is what your ancestors were trying to tell you. They still exist here. The wave guide, your spine, they still exist here. The information, it's not just in your DNA. It's in our atmosphere. The earth is a data hub. The sun, as the largest source of energy and light in our solar system, the sun is the largest source of knowledge and information. As the source of the largest magnetic field, it's the largest hard drive. You don't understand why Einstein said quantum entanglement was spooky. You don't understand that part. The reason he called it spooky action at a distance is more interesting than the intricacies of quantum entanglement itself. And it just so happens that there's 137 atoms in a molecule of chlorophyll? Are you insane? Are you insane to think these are coincidences? When you're running from artificial intelligence, you're running from your ancestors.